The Wheel of the Year, comprising the 8 sacred Sabbats, is celebrated by Wiccans and various neo-pagans. By observing the Wheel of the Year, individuals align themselves with the energetic cycles of nature and listen to its messages, rather than resisting its natural flow. The Sabbats provide opportune moments to embark on new projects as the Earth emerges from winter's hibernation, as well as to reflect and plan during the introspective winter months. Depicted as spokes on a wheel, the Sabbats are evenly spaced throughout the year, marking significant turning points in nature's annual journey through the seasons. The Earth's orbit around the Sun is not perfectly vertical, but rather tilted at an angle of 23.5 degrees. This tilt is responsible for the changing proximity of different regions to the Sun, resulting in the 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. When one hemisphere tilts toward the Sun, it experiences a warmer season, spring or summer, while the opposite hemisphere, tilted away from the Sun, experiences a colder season, fall or winter. The degree of axial tilt decreases closer to the equator, leading to less variation between summer and winter. Conversely, residing closer to the North or South Pole yields more pronounced differences in seasonal conditions. The solar festivals, dividing the year into quarters, correspond to these seasonal changes and are known as the spring equinox, Ostara, summer solstice, Litha, autumn equinox, Mabon, and winter solstice, Yule. They are collectively referred to as the lesser Sabbats, and their dates vary slightly each year based on the sun's position in the sky. Between the quarters are the cross-quarter holidays, also known as fire festivals, Imbolc, Beltane, Lughnasadh, and Samhain. These are known as the greater Sabbats, and their dates remain relatively fixed. It is essential to note that in the southern hemisphere, the seasons and Sabbat celebrations occur at different times compared to the northern hemisphere. For the northern hemisphere, the dates of each Sabbat are as follows: Samhain/Halloween, October 31/November 1st, Yule, winter solstice, around December 21st, Imbolc, February 1st, Ostara, spring equinox, around March 21st, Beltane, May 1st, Litha/Midsummer, summer solstice, around June 21st, Lughnasadh, August 1st, Mabon, autumn equinox, around September 21st. The cycle of 8 festivals observed in contemporary paganism was not originally celebrated in its entirety by any specific pre-Christian culture. In the 1940s and 1950s, Gerald Gardner, a British individual, founded the religion of Wicca by incorporating elements from diverse cultures and traditions. He derived and adapted practices from pre-Christian religions, animistic beliefs, folk magic, shamanic disciplines, and esoteric orders. Gardner amalgamated equinox and solstice traditions from various cultures with Celtic feast days and early European agricultural and pastoral celebrations, creating a cohesive model that formed the basis for the Wiccan ritual year. Let's explore each of the Sabbats and briefly discuss the mythologies and practices associated with them. Samhain, the first festival in the Wheel of the Year, holds a significant place as the witches' new year. It is commonly known as Halloween or All Hallows' Eve. Samhain is characterized by a thinning of the veil between the human and spirit realms, honoring the deceased, and the harvesting of plants and livestock. Traditionally, the Celts divided the Wheel of the Year into 2 halves, the light half and the dark half, representing summer and winter, respectively. Samhain marked the beginning of the dark half. While many people celebrate Samhain on the night of October 31st, the official observance takes place on November 1st. In many Wiccan traditions, the goddess is symbolized as the triple goddess, maiden, mother, and crone. The crone, representing Samhain, embodies both the final stage before death and the initial stage of the matriarchy within the triple goddess. During Samhain, the goddess descends from the earthly realm to the land of the dead, where she reunites with her beloved, the dying god. This descent is believed to be the reason for the thinning of the veil. On Samhain night, various creatures, both benevolent and malevolent, roam freely in the mortal world. To ward off potential abduction by fairies and later witches, the Celts would disguise themselves as animals or fearsome creatures. People also offer food to their departed ancestors, expecting their visit. Offerings are also made to Celtic goddesses associated with death, such as the Morrigan. Although a Greek goddess, Hecate is also associated with Samhain. She is known as the dark goddess and embodies mystery, the moon, the inner self, and our shadow selves. According to legend, on the night of Samhain, the fairy mounds open, and the wild hunt emerges. In Norse mythology, these hunts are led by Odin, sometimes accompanied by goddesses such as Bertha and Holda. The horde would gather the souls of sinners, or abduct unsuspecting passersby, depositing them miles away from their original location. This hunt is also associated with the next festival, Yule. It is speculated that the myth of Santa Claus is directly connected to Odin, as evidenced by the similarity between Santa's 8 reindeer and Odin's 8-legged Sleipnir. Both Santa Claus and Odin were associated with gift-giving, and they had their respective helpers, elves or dwarves who crafted items for them. Yule, also known as the winter solstice, holds the position of the second spoke on the dark side of the modern Wheel of the Year. On Yule, the longest night of the year occurs, marking a turning point when the days will gradually become longer. The pagan roots of this season continue to influence both secular and spiritual celebrations, from holly, garlands, wreaths, cookies, and lights to the burning of Yule logs. Male deities of winter often symbolize the sun, male fertility, and the return of light and vitality to the world. In ancient times, the Romans celebrated this period as the birth of their revered deity Apollo, followed later by the Persian Mithras, a solar god, symbolically linking this event with the return of light after the darkest hour. However, in the 4th century, the Roman Church began replacing the birth of the sun with the birth of the sun, associating Jesus as the one who would bring illumination and vitality to the world, despite Jesus likely being born during springtime and not during Yule. In neo-pagan traditions, Yule symbolizes the victory of the Oak King, representing light, over the Holly King, representing darkness. However, it is important to note that the concepts of the Holly King and Oak King are not originally Celtic in origin. These archetypes were popularized by Robert Graves in his book, The White Goddess, and can be seen as symbolic representations of the eternal cyclic struggle between winter and summer. The Holly King governs the waning phase of the year, characterized by fading sunlight and shorter days, while the Oak King presides over the waxing phase, associated with increasing light and brightness. Female figures associated with winter are often attributed with the challenges of birth and death. The Norse goddess Frigga, wife of Odin and queen of Aesir, labored to give birth to the sun on this night. Even today, many Norse women invoke Frigg's name for a healthy pregnancy. Holda is the Germanic goddess associated with Christmas and is believed to bring prosperity and fertility. In Celtic theology, the goddess in charge is Cailleach, the divine hag crone who reigns over the winter half of the year from Samhain, October 31st, to Beltane, May 1st. Imbolc, which marks the third spoke on the dark side of the modern wheel of the year, is traditionally observed on February 1st. However, it has merged with the Catholic Church's Candlemas celebration and is now celebrated on February 2nd. A proverb linked to Candlemas suggests that if the day is sunny and bright, winter will persist, but if it is cloudy with rain, winter is on its way out. Among the 4 Celtic fire festivals, Samhain, Imbolc, Beltane, and Lughnasadh, Imbolc is a celebration of the re-emergence of light after the winter darkness. Candles are often blessed during this festival to symbolize the growing strength of light. Historically, it was a time when people would begin preparing fields for the upcoming sowing season, representing an awakening from introspection, reflection on lessons learned, and making plans for the future. The Irish word Imbolc is associated with ewes, indicating that this is the time of year when they are pregnant, further emphasizing the strong connection between Imbolc and fertility. In present times, the Irish continue to celebrate Imbolc under the name of St. Bridget's Day, also known as the Feast of St. Bridget. Bridget of Kildare, the Irish patron saint, is said to have been born in County Kildare around 450. Despite being born into slavery, she converted to Christianity and performed various miracles, including the conversion of Druid temples into Christian monasteries and acts of healing. Imbolc's association with the Celtic goddess of the same name, Bridget, is not a coincidence. Bridget embodies the triple goddess and encompasses a wide range of domains and attributes, including fire, change, poetry, inspiration, wisdom, healing, creativity, water, prophecy, education, and childbirth. During Imbolc, Bridget, as the triple goddess, transitions from the crone to the maiden. The Bridget's cross, an Irish tradition made from woven rushes, is hung over doors and windows to offer protection and welcome the goddess into homes. Besides Bridget, there is also a significant presence of Frigga, who shares similar domains and associations. Besides these 2 goddesses, Imbolc holds significance for all gods and goddesses associated with love and fertility. Ostara, also known as the spring equinox, signifies the moment when the duration of night and day are equal. Symbolically, the spring equinox represents rebirth, renewal, and resurrection, making it the final festival in the dark half of the wheel. In Wiccan traditions, it is believed that during Ostara, the goddess and the god unite in marriage. Specifically, Ostara welcomes the return of the horned god in the form of Pan, while the triple goddess assumes her maiden form. Pan, a deity associated with nature and the wild, awakens dormant animals with his melodic songs as spring approaches. Historically, in many cultures, including Europe, it was common to give livestock to couples as a means of promoting and encouraging fertility in their union. Due to the close proximity of Ostara to Easter, common traditions have emerged, with the most prominent being the decoration of eggs as symbols of hope, life, and fertility. Beltane, historically associated with the start of the summer season, marks the beginning of the light half of the wheel of the year. After the 4 dark holidays of Samhain, Yule, Imbolc, and Ostara have passed, Beltane signifies the welcoming of the sun's light in the arrival of new life. Livestock graze in the fields, and trees burst into bloom, painting the landscape with vibrant colors. Beltane is strongly connected to the tradition of bonfires. The lighting of the Beltane fire can occur on Walpurgis night, May Eve, or on Beltane itself, May 1st. Traditionally, the Beltane fire is constructed using bundles of 9 different types of wood carefully chosen for their symbolic significance, although variations exist among different regions and traditions. During the bonfire celebration, people joyfully dance and weave around the maypole. The maypole is often made of birch or ash. Birch, being sacred to the goddess, represents fertility and new beginnings, while ash is associated with the world tree in Norse mythology. The name Beltane is derived from the Celtic god Bel, also known as Balor, referred to as the Bright One. According to legend, Lugh, a prominent figure in Celtic mythology, defeated and blinded Balor, taking his place as the primary solar deity. Litha, also known as Midsummer, signifies the summer solstice, which represents the longest day of the year. This important celestial event is widely celebrated in northern and western Europe and holds great significance in Celtic communities throughout Britain, Wales, Scotland, and Ireland. During Litha, the sun's energies reach their peak. In Wiccan beliefs, this is when the solar god's power reaches its climax before gradually waning, symbolized by impregnating the maiden goddess. As a result, the maiden transitions into the mother aspect of the goddess. Litha is a festival that celebrates sun and fire gods across various traditions. These include Egyptian gods like Ra and Horus, the Nordic sun goddess Sol, the Roman god Juno, and the Hindu fire god Agni. As part of the light half of the wheel of the year, Midsummer, much like Beltane, is associated with fire festivals. The lighting of large bonfires symbolizes the sun, sensuality, life, love, and fertility. The wise oak king, who reigns from the winter solstice to the summer solstice, reaches his zenith but must now gradually relinquish his position to the youthful holly king, who holds sway from Litha to Yule. Lughnasadh, also known as Lammas or Loaf Mass, marks the beginning of the harvest season and is the third festival in the light half of the modern wheel of the year. It is a celebration focused specifically on the wheat harvest, with baking bread as a customary practice. Lughnasadh is a time of gratitude, playing games, expressing appreciation, and enjoying feasts. It serves as a moment to recognize the realization of plans and the abundance provided by the land. The name Lughnasadh is derived from the Celtic god Lugh. While Lugh is often viewed as a solar deity and harvest god in modern interpretations, his original role was associated with human skill, kingship, and patronage of heroes. The Old Irish name Lughnasadh translates to Lugh's assembly, which may clandestinely refer to Lugh's wedding feast. In Irish tradition, the union of kingship with marriage to a woman of royal lineage, often associated with goddesses and holding roles as priestesses or embodiments of the goddess, is significant. Descriptions of kingship wedding feasts often included a sexual element and the administration of a special drink by the goddess to the newly crowned king. Symbolically, Lugh's kingship wedding feast can be understood as a coronation, representing his union with the land, symbolized by the goddess, and the legitimization of his rule over it. Mabon, also known as Harvest Home or Harvest End, represents the autumn equinox, which is the fourth festival on the light side of the modern wheel of the year. It is a time when the balance between day and night is maintained, providing a brief pause before the encroaching darkness of winter. The name Mabon derives from the Celtic god Mabon, who is the son of Modron, a great mother figure. According to mythology, Modron mourned the loss of Mabon after he was abducted 3 days after his birth. Mabon was held captive within a stone enclosure but was eventually freed. Similar narratives of a god or goddess being taken away against their will exist in various cultures, often leading to the onset of winter. Mabon is also associated with the symbolic sacrifice of a leadership figure representing the god of vegetation to ensure the survival of the community. This act of sacrifice was crucial for the basic sustenance of the people, as the dying god embodied the vitality of the land. In the Egyptian myth of Isis and Osiris, Osiris was torn apart by his enemy, Set, but later resurrected by Isis. The absence of Osiris resulted in a scarcity of food and the loss of his energy as the god of vegetation. The theme of sacrificial leadership brings to mind the story of Jesus Christ, where the god figure sacrifices himself for the well-being of his people. Mabon, due to its association with the inevitability of death, becomes a season of both harvest and grief. As the god of the land is laid to rest, the transition begins for the goddess of the land to assume the role of leadership during Samhain. Samhain then marks the beginning of a new phase in the seasonal cycle. During Samhain, as you recall, the goddess leaves the earthly realm to reunite with her beloved dying god in the underworld.